events that we see around our community with police, and we don't know what's necessarily going on with some of the immigrant population among us. We ask that you send your Holy Spirit upon the situation and work out your will for the benefit of everybody involved. During this time together, we ask that you send your Holy Spirit upon us as well, so that we can continue to learn more about your will and increase our faith. All these things we ask in the holy precious name of Jesus. Amen.
Amen.
Okay, so we are on Genesis chapter 41, verse 37. We did a chapter and a half last week. We're going to do a chapter and a half this week. So we cover 3 chapters in 2 weeks. And if that seems like a lot, I think the next time we meet, we're going to try to cover 3 chapters in one time. So we'll see how it goes. No, not going to skip over the names. That's a good question. All right, so Joseph rises to power. So last week we had a whole bunch of dreams. We talked a little bit about dream interpretation, what that means. And so Joseph has just told Pharaoh, hey, there's going to be a famine. You need to set someone in power. Pharaoh's like, hey, you're the one that came up with this idea. Why don't you do it? And so now Joseph is going to exercise his power that Pharaoh has given him. Okay? So verse 37. This proposal pleased Pharaoh and all of his servants. And Pharaoh said to his servants, can we find a man like this, in whom is the Spirit of God? And Pharaoh said to Joseph, since God has shown you all of this, there is none so discerning and wise as you are. You shall be over my house, and all my people shall order themselves as you command. Only as regards to the throne will I be greater than you. And Pharaoh said to Joseph, see, I have set you over all the land of Egypt. Then Pharaoh took his signet ring from his hand and put it on Joseph's hand, and clothed him in garments of fine linen, and put a gold chain around his neck. And he made him ride in his second chariot. And they called out before him, bow the knee. Thus he set him over all the land of Egypt. Moreover, Pharaoh said to Joseph, I am Pharaoh, and without your consent no one shall lift up a hand or foot in all of the land of Egypt. And Pharaoh called Joseph's name Zaphenath Paneah, and he gave him in marriage to Asenath, the daughter of Potiphar, the priest of On. So Joseph went over the land of Egypt. Wow. What's so wow about it?
So quickly.
Uh-huh.
You just met him. He just met it and interpreted the dream
And he's from prison, no less.
yes.
Right? It's not just like a guy on the street. This guy was actually in prison.
Now he's second in command and has a wife and
Of the most powerful nation in the world at that time.
a kingdom, really.
And a kingdom, and a wife, and a house, and chariot, and what else can you want?
One was good.
Life is good. Well, life has been pretty bad for him in the past. So it's about time that something worked out, right? Right? He's on the next peak for the roller
They
coaster.
truly believed that God was the one behind him, making all these things happen.
Now, isn't that interesting?
Because he is.
Yeah.
Well, because we know that he is. But I think that's a really interesting comment, because we don't assume that the Egyptians are going to recognize the true God, right? And so Pharaoh's words in verse 38, can we find a man like this in whom is the Spirit of God? Pharaoh recognized at least something, quote unquote, divine working in Joseph. Whether or not he recognized that to be the true God or not, maybe one of his gods that he worshipped, right? Let's see, 38.
Pastor, I looked up the name, Zaphenath-Paneah.
Yeah.
It said the one who furnishes the sustenance of the land, or God speaks.
Sweet. Yeah.
that, I mean, that was the
That's,
name given
that's,
to him.
that's the whole thing, that's his job, right? Is to provide food during the famine.
What was that again, Judy?
When I looked up the name that the Pharaoh gave Joseph, that St.Matthew, it said the one who furnishes the sustenance of the land, or God speaks.
That's pretty profound, that's a great name.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, and it's kind of long that way, right? But it works. Good. Okay, so what else? So we have Pharaoh putting someone in prison and second in command. We have Pharaoh recognizing that there is something going on with this guy Joseph, that he's able to do all this stuff. Okay?
What's the purpose of the signet ring on his hand?
Well, what do you think?
Show that he has power?
Show that he has power over Egypt, right? I think that for the signet ring, we have to think back to one of the previous chapters that we studied. Do you remember where the signet ring came in before? With Judah and Tamar, right?
Yeah.
Tamar received the signet ring from Judah in order to be able to identify him in the future, right? So the signet ring is a symbol of not only authority, but of the identification of authority, right? So now that he's wearing Pharaoh's signet ring, he's able to prove to people that may not believe that this new upstart guy has any power, that actually he does. Good.
Panera Bread got their name from Paneo there.
Did you know, not a lot of, I didn't know this before I lived in St. Louis. Did you know that Panera Bread is not the real name of the company?
What was that?
Panera is not the real name of the company. The real name of the company is St. Louis Bread Company. And so in St. Louis, you don't go to a Panera, you go to a St. Louis Bread Company. And everywhere else outside of St. Louis, they call it Panera. I have no idea why. But it's just, yeah, it's just what they do. So, okay, good. So he's got the linen, he's got the gold chain, he's got a signet ring. These are really good things. All right, verse 46. Joseph was 30 years old when he entered the service of Pharaoh, the king of Egypt. And Joseph went out from the presence of Pharaoh and went through all the land of Egypt. During the 7 plentiful years, the earth produced abundantly. And he gathered up all the food of these 7 years, which occurred in the land of Egypt, and put the food in the cities. He put in every city the food from the fields around it. And Joseph stored up grain in great abundance, like the sand of the sea, until he ceased to measure it, for it could not be measured.
That's a lot.
That's a lot. He's not just storing it up, but they're still eating on it in those 7 years too.
Right? Yeah, it's not just like...
Rationing it out.
Yeah, it's still rationed out, right? I think for me, at least as a city boy, this paragraph doesn't necessarily make sense to me. Like, I don't understand how you can just store grain and have it not go bad or get mice or get bugs or fermented or...
When you're driving through the country, you go by some of these farms, you see these big, huge, round.
Silos.
Yes, they're full of grain.
Right.
But in
And
those,
there are air.
But you have to dry it, don't you?
Yes, and if their dryers probably keep them from getting moisture.
So, but what I'm saying is, I get that.
That's to them.
That I don't get, I mean, maybe it was just so dry in Egypt that they didn't,
God had his hand in it.
God, you know, like, to me, it's yeah, put it in a pile, no problem. But how do you keep that pile good for, you know, because if you're starting saving in the 7th year, you might not eat that for another 14 years.
Vicky Banks, is that real in real life?
Well, if you've got silage for the cattle, it's going to be, you can leave that outside, but I'm.
But that's
thinking
field corn, right?
Well, I'm sure that they're using some sort of field corn. Field corn is good to eat if it's picked at the right time.
For us?
Yeah, for us. You can go out and do that. You just don't want to let it dry out on the ear.
It is.
I don't think I would eat that.
I'm thinking that they probably had some kind of building or covering that went over it. They're not just leaving it out. It's a lot of corn, it's a lot of grain, not just corn that they've got, but it's a lot of grain, so I would think that they might start putting it into some kind of a covered building or tent.
Wait, well, okay, which is fine, but then you think about the amount of tent space that you would need to be able to have in order to have that much grain that you can't even measure it. Like that's a lot.
But he was told you're gonna have 7 years of plenty.
Right.
Store it for the
I mean,
7 years that you're not gonna have.
He's doing the right thing, right? Like, no, I'm not arguing that. I'm just saying, like, to me, I can't conceive of the amount of energy it's going to take to try to come up with these, like, huge tents to be able to store this grain in the desert and
But do
then
you
have.
think that Noah being told that there's going to be a flood and he's not understanding what a flood is going to be? They haven't had rain like that before, but he's trusting God and he has to build this huge boat because all this water is going to come. So Joseph is just
God gave
trusting.
him the, yeah.
Well, Google says.
Oh! I'm gonna ban cell phones.
That they did have to have some kind of storage, something.
You know what they do in high school now? To try to get rid of cell phones, is they have this little shoe caddy on the door, and then you have your number and you place your phone right in the number there. So maybe we'll have that for Bible study. Well, Google says.
Sorry, you guys.
We don't get a little cubby over here.
Yeah, can't you tell I'm so mad?
But the point is, they had to have some kind of storage.
Some kind of, yeah, right.
If they had catacombs where they bury people, they could have put the grave.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like a lot to me.
Yeah.
That's my whole point.
But look what they would build to just bury one guy. I mean, the Egyptians were amazing in building huge, constructing these stone massive
Yeah.
The
things,
pyramids were used.
you know.
Well, and I haven't said
technology.
this publicly yet, but I'm actually hoping to go to Israel next year. And then there's an Egypt add-on, so I'm hoping to actually go to the pyramids next year. And I guess you can't even put like a piece of paper in between the rocks. That's how tight they are together. Like, it's amazing. So, all right. Good. All right. Verse 50. Before the year of the famine came, 2 sons were born to Joseph. Asenath, the daughter of Potiphar, priest of On, bore them to him. Joseph called the name of the firstborn Manasseh, for he said, God has made me forget all my hardship and all my father's house. The name of the second he called Ephraim, for he said, God made me fruitful in the land of my affliction. So we have the common theme that we've had the whole time during Genesis, right? You have a boy that's born, and then you have the meaning of the name or the explanation of the name that comes right after it. And then we also have 2, which should make us think of Cain and Abel, Jacob and Esau. What's the other one?
Isaac
and
No,
Ishmael.
Ishmael, right?
Yeah.
So this is another grouping of boys. We're not going to have the fighting in between Manasseh and Ephraim that we saw with Jacob and Esau. They just kind of are. And they become much, much more important when we get into the book of Joshua. But until we get there, Manasseh and Ephraim just kind of do their thing. Okay?
But Joseph is already feeling God's blessing, and forgiveness is starting. We can see that is in the name of his children, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Good. So, how are we supposed to take that, the meaning of Manasseh? God has made me forget all my hardship and all my father's house.
God will take care of us, even in hard times.
Yeah, that works. What's another one?
Can't hold a grudge, that's all gone.
It's the past is the past, and this is my new life, and this is how it's going to be. But is that what we want? Do you want to just have a specific bad time in your life and then just leave it behind?
No, you want to know that through it all, God is with you.
Okay, what I'm trying to get at is this last phrase. Joseph's saying that God has made him forget his father's house. What? That doesn't sound good. Like, God has made me forget my family, where I come from. I don't know.
Does he want him to forget that he was ever anything but Egyptian?
That's one way that you can interpret that.
Or just forgetting the hardship.
Or just forgetting the fact that he was sold into slavery by his own family. Would be a much more positive way to take
Yeah,
it.
that God had a plan for him.
Right?
There's gonna be a lot of friction in that, in his family, as he grew up.
I think that's the understatement of the year, right? Of course, yeah. So he's forgotten all of, so instead of like, he's made me forget the hardship, and he's made me forget my father's house, maybe we can kind of make that into the same concept. He's made me forget all of the hardship that was in my father's house. Right? Okay? That would be much, much more positive. When do I want to talk about this? Yeah, let's talk about it now. So, Joseph, this Hebrew child we talked about last week, has been elevated to this amazing status as second in command of the most powerful country in the world. And that, I forgot who said it, maybe it was you or you. Like, this shouldn't happen, right? Like, this should never be even a thing. It's not part of someone's story, but for Joseph it is, okay? So now that Joseph was worshiping Yahweh, he puts dreams in the interpretation that Yahweh wants him to have. He tells everyone that the interpretations come from Yahweh. Now, he's married to an Egyptian priest's daughter. So how is that going to work out?
Complicated.
It's a pretty complicated relationship that he has, and there's nothing in the text that makes us think that they quote unquote had a bad marriage or anything. A lot of strife, like we don't really hear about Joseph's wife in the future. It's really all about Joseph and his brothers. But what do you think is going on in Joseph's mind right now with all of this?
He'd have to be very strong.
How so?
In his trust in God.
Mm-hmm.
Because she certainly, with her upbringing, is going to be all the Egyptian gods.
Yeah? She's all in,
She's all in.
right?
That's all she knows.
What does
That's
that
all
mean?
she knows, I mean, she.
Oh, that's all she knows.
Yeah.
Yep.
I think this transition is miraculous,
Amen.
and I think he thinks so. So, his God has given him a job to do,
And he's doing
It's
it.
his plan,
Mhm.
and given him the strength to do it, and
So what I'm hearing you
Authority.
say, both of you, all of you, is that Joseph's faith is strong, that Joseph's faith is enduring even in the midst of hardship, and maybe Joseph is a better example of what we're supposed to be than what Abraham, Isaac, or Jacob were. Is that what you're saying? Right?
Yeah.
I think he's also quite humble to remember that God is the one that is putting him there, and now that he's got all of this power, he's not thinking, well, it's just all me. He's remembering that it's God.
Yeah, and I think that when, because we want to make the Bible about us, right? So when I think about how do we apply the Joseph story to our lives, I think even though, at least as far as I know, none of us have been in prison before, like we may not have had that same low as Joseph, but I mean, we've had really difficult things that have happened to us that we didn't know how we knew God was gonna get us through, but we didn't know how God was gonna do that kind of thing. And I think that we are able to connect ourselves and the practical theology to Joseph's story much, much easier than we do to Jacob or Isaac or even Abraham, right? Because with Abraham, we don't, God doesn't tell us, well, go move to another country and I'll show you the promised land. It's kind of crazy, right? You don't have Isaac saying, oh, well, I'm going to marry this woman that my father's slave went to go find for me. It's like, you can't connect to that, right? Jacob, we don't see angels descending and ascending on a ladder. We don't wrestle with God, literally, right? So like, those stories get kind of, convoluted is the wrong word, but they get kind of jumbled up as like a Bible thing and not so much of an us thing. And Joseph's story is much more of we understand the highs and the lows of life. And so have we ever said to ourselves like, no, God has brought me through, right? God has made me forget the hardship that I had to go through.
He didn't convert to their religion.
As far as we know.
Even though he is like second in command, he's married to a priest's daughter. All these things would make it easy for him to do that.
Mm-hmm.
But he has faith that God has gotten this far. I hope.
So we've been talking about Joseph on the one hand, okay? Now let's take the other hand and talk about the Egyptians. Have you ever thought about that? What the Egyptians would think about Joseph? Okay, so let's just put ourselves 1 year later, right? So there's great abundance. We're storing up all this grain. We're using all this energy to make these shelters to put the grain, and we're rationing out food because we want to make sure that we have some for the famine, but we don't know if the famine's actually coming.
They have. only what they've been told.
They've only acting on what they've been told from this Hebrew slave from a prison. How do you think Joseph's father-in-law was going to feel about that? The priest of On,
Yeah,
right?
he's like, I didn't pray for that.
This isn't none of the omens I'm seeing, right? And Pharaoh, who is supposed to be like this monarch of religion and state, is basically saying, no, I'm going with the other religion guy. That's gotta
You're
be
going, where's your faith?
pretty shocking, right?
Yeah.
And I don't think we really get anything in the text that says they didn't believe Joseph, or that, you know, Joseph had any hardship because of it, because Pharaoh said whatever Joseph says goes, and you can't really argue with that. But like, I can only imagine if something like that happened today, where we'd be like, does he really know what he's doing? Does he really know what he's talking about?
Plus, he's so young.
Plus, he's only 30,
Yeah.
right? And you know, we know, right? We're older, right? What did we know at 30?
We thought we knew.
We thought we knew everything, but we didn't, right? So, that like I just always, I think I feel for the Egyptian people, because I think that even today, in politics, no matter which side of the fence you go on, you hear someone being appointed to this position of power, and you're like, why? Right? Like, I'm not just saying for this administration, I'm saying for whatever administration, right? You're like, that's not the qualification to have him be in power, right? And yet, we don't get a say, right? And somehow, we are supposed to trust that person to bring us in the right direction. And that is difficult for us to do in those situations. I can only imagine it would be just as difficult for the Egyptians when you don't see anything of the, you know, it would be one thing if you have 1 year abundance, 1 year famine, 1 year abundance, 1 year famine, where you can see what it's going to happen. But they have to wait 7 years. People don't wait. If I told you, well, you know, this is what I want to do, but it's going to happen in 7 years. You'd be, right? I don't care. I don't have time for
Talk
that.
to me in 6.5.
What?
Talk to me in 6.5.
Right, talk me in 6.5 and really like 6 and 11 months. Right? like that's just the way we are. And so I think that is also a big step for the Egyptians that we don't always think about for this chapter.
But they're not used to the instant gratification and the instant finding news and hearing things instantly as it
So
happens. It may take a long time for news to get all the way around Egypt.
So what I'm hearing you say is like that mindset is more of a modern mindset that
Yeah,
they may
I
not
think
have
so.
had. Yeah.
We're gonna be impatient because we want it now and we're hearing about it right now. There are things that are going on right now.
What's that ad for the lottery money? Do you remember that?
It's mine and I want it now.
J.G. Wentworth. It's my money and I want it now.
Yeah.
Right? Like, that's exactly what it is.
The opera stars.
Yeah.
Another way to look at the priests and maybe their reaction and the Egyptians' reaction is they were called in to interpret the dreams. Everyone
Bingo.
failed. They all failed. Then comes this guy and bails them out because they're going to end up getting. Look what happened to the baker, and look what happened to the guy that goofed up with the wine. You goof up with the Pharaoh, and you know. So these guys, Joseph is going to take the fall. We're out of, you know.
Yeah.
We're okay now. So
2 stars, look at you.
Using the text to back up your argument. I love it. Okay. So maybe okay, so we have on one hand we have Joseph, on the other hand we have the Egyptians on the other hand, on the third hand, right?
Yeah.
They tried and they failed.
Yeah.
So they're gonna trust Joseph's interpretation because they couldn't do it. Right?
And they have the perfect fall guy if
It-
it screws up, you know.
Throw him back in prison! Who cares?
Exactly. Hebrews fall,
Yeah.
he didn't know what he was doing.
That's good. Did you have something to say?
Only that probably the
That's
Egyptians had some pretty strong inducements to do what Pharaoh told them to do.
Yeah.
Or they might come and take you away,
Right, yeah.
like this morning.
You have to do what
Yeah.
Pharaoh says at the end.
Yeah.
Right? Pharaoh said you obey Joseph, you obey Joseph. You're not allowed to lift your hand or your foot without him saying so.
They cut off
Yeah.
your head.
Right?
And Pharaoh, he knows his people, and my boys can't handle this.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I mean, no one can survive the 7 years, right? So you gotta do something about it. Alright, this was a really good conversation. Okay, so 53. The 7 years of plenty that occurred in the land of Egypt came to an end, and the 7 years of famine began to come, and as Joseph had said. There was a famine in all the lands, but in all the land of Egypt there was bread. When all the land of Egypt was famished, the people cried to Pharaoh for bread. Pharaoh said to all the Egyptians, "Go to Joseph. What he says to you, do." So when the famine had spread over all the land, Joseph opened all storehouses, right?
Google.
And sold to the Egyptians, for the famine was severe in the land of Egypt. Moreover, all the earth came to Egypt to Joseph to buy grain, because the famine was severe over all the earth.
So now seeing is believing.
Seeing is believing is a really good thing, right? Okay, let's take a more sinister approach to this. Okay? What is actually happening here?
No, they have control.
Joseph taxed the people for their grain.
Now they gotta buy.
You have to give me 20 or whatever percentage it is of your grain to go in this storehouse. And now you have to buy it back from me.
Mhm.
That sounds like what they did.
Is that ethical?
No.
No.
Maybe he's not such a great example. Okay? It seems to me that if I were Joseph, I would sell the grain to people that aren't Egyptian. Right? If I tax you for the thing, I'm going to give you the bread because you already paid in your tax. Right? And so when Joseph's brothers come to buy grain, yeah, of course you can buy grain because you're not from here.
You didn't contribute.
You didn't contribute, but that doesn't mean you can't have some, you just have to pay for it. Right? That's the way that my mind works. That's not the way that this is obviously.
It's not a co-op.
It's just okay. Alright, okay, good. Oh yeah, we can totally finish 42. This is gonna be great. Okay. Joseph's brothers go to Egypt. When Jacob learned that there was grain for sale in Egypt, he said to his sons, "Why do you look at one another?" And he said, "Behold, I have heard that there is grain for sale in Egypt. Go down and buy grain for us there, that we may live and not die." So 10 of Joseph's brothers went down to buy grain in Egypt. But Jacob did not send Benjamin, Joseph's brother, with his brothers, for he feared that harm might happen to him. Thus the sons of Israel came to buy among the others who came, for the famine was in the land of Canaan.
I see him favoring again the youngest.
Okay,
He didn't learn, well, granted, he doesn't know that the brothers out of anger did what they did, but he's doing it again. Here, you
Jacob
guys go do this. I'm keeping this one back.
Jacob has not learned his lesson. He is still favoring Benjamin. Why Benjamin?
Is the youngest.
He's
But
the
he's
youngest and also
From Rebecca.
Rachel's
yeah.
his favorite wife's only son that's left.
Yeah.
Okay, so Benjamin's got two positives to him. He's the youngest, and also he's the only one left from Rachel. Okay? So Jacob is not going to come across as very good right now. That's okay. He hasn't come across great other times. Anything else?
Is he not so concerned that the other 10 would be harmed?
Why does he care about the other 10? Right? Like, I really only, it's not just a favoring of Benjamin. It's like, no, actually, I really only care about you, the other one. Like, just go down, whatever. Right?
If you come back, great.
If you come back, great. If not, whatever.
Well, they were also older.
True. Which you would think that you could trust them more.
But these aren't little boys, they're not boys, and Joseph is now in his 30s.
Judah already had that whole thing with Tamar and had sons and all the things.
They're all married.
So Benjamin is not a baby either. He's gotta be in his 20s or
At least
in his 30s.
20s, yeah. Yeah. Okay. So it's not like, yeah, he's the baby, but it's not like he's a baby.
But they're obedient, they go.
Well, because they're all kind of living together still, right? So
Probably.
they're gonna listen to their father, right?
Do they feel the guilt what they did?
We're
think they
gonna
did?
see. We haven't seen that yet, but we are gonna see that. Yeah. Jane, did you have
Isn't
something?
it kind of rude? Why do you look at one another? I mean,
Well,
okay, the way he speaks.
What is
to
he
them.
actually saying there? Why do you look at one another? So what's the situation?
They're starving.
They're hungry, maybe on the verge of starving.
Why are you standing there? Get home.
Why are you twiddling your thumb? Why are you looking at one another trying to figure out what to do? Go do something. Get off your butt. That's is that strong language from their father? Or just is what fathers do?
It's what fathers do, but when you're an adult, you expect that you would be able to figure it out yourself, and they're not doing that.
And they're not really being adults. They're still kind of acting like children.
Well, maybe that's because they still live with daddy.
Well, that's a modern thing. So back then it would have been much more socially acceptable.
I'm wondering if this is of Jacob's fear of retribution, because they didn't treat Joseph very well.
I
So
think
they wander over there, they might just get impaled instead of fed.
Well, I don't think he knows that.
He does.
Joseph is-
but he knows that there's the loss of Joseph,
Yeah.
right? And so I think that's what you're saying is that maybe is what you're saying that Jacob thinks, well, maybe something bad will happen to them because they did something bad to Joseph.
Yeah, yeah.
I've never thought about it that way.
Well, he don't know that they did anything bad to Joseph, does he?
We haven't seen it yet.
Okay.
We're gonna see. Maybe there's some feelings about
Because they
that.
said that he was killed by an animal.
Right. Stay tuned.
Well, Joseph's ability to forgive is almost superhuman.
Don't you think?
And he just keeps
Yeah.
getting on.
Yeah.
So,
I totally agree. Yeah, good. All right. So, verse 6. Now Joseph was governor over the land. He was the one who sold to all the people of the land. And Joseph's brothers came and bowed themselves before him with their faces to the ground. Joseph saw his brothers and recognized them, but he treated them like strangers and spoke roughly to them. Where do you come from? He said. They said, from the land of Canaan to buy food. And Joseph recognized his brothers, but they did not recognize him. And Joseph remembered the dreams that he had dreamed of them. And he said to them, you are spies. You have come to see the nakedness of the land. And they said to him, no, my lord. Your servants have come to buy food. We are all sons of one man. We are honest men. Your servants have never been spies.
Can I just interrupt for a second? Could we post this somewhere?
Sure.
Yes, Los event that's coming down to Lexington.
Cool.
Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you. Sorry.
Bye.
Hi, Bernie.
Okay. What do we think? fruition of the dream that the brothers are bowing down before him with their faces to the ground.
Right.
Okay, great.
They don't recognize.
They don't recognize him.
Well, he's all in Egyptian garb now.
I
He's
mean,
not going to-
this boy, he got sold when he was 17, right?
Yeah, they look a little.
Men change between 17 and 30, especially when you're a father, right? So like, he's probably wearing makeup. A lot of Egyptians wore makeup, okay? Egyptian clothes, Egyptian haircut, beard, jewelry, all of they're expecting Joseph is working in some house or making bricks or whatever they were doing, right? They're not expecting Joseph to be in this position of power. And a lot, if you know anything about psychology, our expectations and our perceptions change the way that we see the world. And so if they're not expecting this, they're not going to see it, right? But if you think about Joseph, how much have the brothers changed?
Not that much. really.
When you see them all 10 together, you're probably going to recognize a couple of them, right? Especially the older one, like,
And they all came from Canaan.
yeah, I mean, I've changed since I was 17, but I still look like me. You know what I mean? So, like, he's going to be able to recognize them, but it's not likely that they would recognize him. Okay?
They would never even have thought that he would have been in that position.
Well, and then we think about the language, right? Joseph's going to be speaking in Egyptian, not in Hebrew. Okay? So they don't know Egyptian. They're not going to be able to talk to him, right? There's trade, but it's not that kind of constant trade.
Well, and as you said, the Egyptians, the way they dressed was so entirely.
Vastly different.
Vastly
Yeah,
different.
yeah,
And so,
yeah, of course. Okay, so we've got the dream fruition. What else? Yeah.
Just prior, we were told that God made him forget his family and all of that, and so we think that he's got, this here does not show that. This shows that he's ticked off. He recognizes them. You guys don't even know who I am. You're spies.
You don't know me.
I'm gonna mess with you.
That's right. Yeah. This doesn't demonstrate A, forgetfulness, B, forgiveness.
It doesn't.
Okay? Very good. So, I think that really goes into human psychology really, really well, right? We as humans like to trick ourselves into thinking that problems are non-problems. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Denial.
We like to deny, okay? So, Joseph names his first, I've forgotten all my troubles. Da, 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 da. Problem confronts itself again. I'm mad. Because he didn't actually forget. Even though he said he did, he didn't. Because our trauma usually sticks with us for a really, 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 really long time. Unless you deal with it.
again, trigger it.
All of the memories come flooding back, right? Yeah, for sure. Anything else in this paragraph? There's one more thing.
Your sons, all sons of one man.
All sons of one man, which would have tipped him off.
We are honest men.
I heard some of you chuckle, so that was good. I'm glad that you got that, right? Like,
Really?
they're lying that they're honest.
Just to the guys.
That's pretty bad. All right. So Joseph said to them, "No, it is the nakedness of the land that you have come to see." And they said, "We, your servants, are 12 brothers, the sons of one man in the land of Canaan. And behold, the youngest is this day with our father, and one is no more." But Joseph said to them, "It is as I said to you, you are spies. By this you shall be tested. By the life of Pharaoh, you shall not go from this place unless your youngest brother comes here. Send one of you and let him bring your brother, while you remain confined, that your words may be tested, whether there is truth in you. or else by the life of Pharaoh, surely you are spies. And he put them all together in custody for 3 days.
Scared of the jeepers out of it.
Right? Well, I think it did. I mean, especially if you've never been in prison before, like, prison is not a happy place to be. And I say that because I did prison ministry at seminary, so that was like a different experience for me, because I had never had that kind of feeling before.
Well, it sounds like they're not really quite sure that Joseph is alive, because they say one is no more. So is that one is no more as in being dead, or is one is no more as part of the 12 at home? Yeah.
The Hebrew is, that's what the Hebrew says.
Okay, so one is,
So you interpret that as is no more. So this is pretty much another way of saying, like, he's dead.
okay, so it sounds like the brothers are not, they don't know that Joseph might even still be alive.
That's how they're thinking that he is dead. Or at least that's the way that they're presenting it. Okay?
But they're honest men.
But they're honest men, so you don't know. This is not demonstrating forgetfulness or forgiveness. This is demonstrating
Giving.
a little bit of revenge. Say that? Okay, right? I have a sister. I don't have a brother. I don't know. I think the relationship with brothers, I mean, it's pretty competitive, right? Like, I'm gonna get you back for doing this and this, that, and the other thing. I mean, I don't know, right? Okay. Verse 18. On the third day, Joseph said to them, "Do this and you will live, for I fear God. If you are honest men, let one of your brothers remain confined where you are in custody, and let the rest go and carry grain for the famine of your households. And bring your youngest brother to me, so your words will be verified, and you shall not die." And they did so. Then when they said to one another, "In truth, we are guilty concerning our brother, in that we saw the distress of his soul when he begged us, and we would not listen. This is why this distress has come upon us."
So Joseph is realizing that he's, what he's doing and is not right. So he fears reprimand from God at this point, because he's supposed to forgive and not.
He's changing his mind a little bit, so instead of 10 of them staying, now only one is going to stay, and somehow that's better than the 10. Right?
Then the other ones can bring the food back.
So then they can bring the food back because he feels bad that he doesn't want his father's family to die and all of their kids and all that stuff.
But the brothers finally kind of confess to some extent, in
To
truth.
each other, right?
They said to, one another.
They said to one another, so they this is not something that they've forgotten.
They
This
still
sin,
feel guilt.
this sin has stuck with them, and they feel very guilty about it.
In verse 18, Joseph, whom they are, the brothers are thinking is Egyptian, Joseph says to them, "Do this and you will live, for I fear God."
Uh-huh.
And he's talking about Yahweh, God. He's
Yeah.
not talking about an Egyptian God, so
That's a big clue.
I think that should be something to the brothers, but maybe they're feeling too guilty.
It doesn't seem like that, right?
No, but that's almost confessing that, I'm not an Egyptian.
Uh-huh, I agree. All right. And Reuben answered, verse 22, and Reuben answered them, "Did I not tell you not to sin against the boy? But you did not listen. So now there comes a reckoning for his blood." They did not know that Joseph understood them, for there was an interpreter between them. Then he turned away from them and wept, and he returned to them and spoke to them. And he took Simeon from them and bound him before their eyes. And Joseph gave orders to fill their bags with grain, and to replace every man's money in his sack, and to give him provisions for the journey, and this was done for them.
So he gave the grain and the money back. I didn't know that.
Yep.
Like how Reuben blames everybody else.
Reuben is the eldest, remember? And so he's blaming well, you didn't listen to me, I told you. Which I think also happens in families, right? My question is always, why Simeon? Right?
Why not the
Because,
fourth one?
because Judah was the one that said, hey, let's sell him.
Right.
Right? So in my mind, if I were Joseph, it would be Judah. So you can say, maybe he didn't remember correctly because that was a traumatic experience for him. Maybe he knew that Reuben was trying to help and he went to the next eldest, which is Simeon, right? Like, there's no reason given.
Which one said when they wanted to do away with Joseph in the first place, let's kill him? And then the rest of them kind of agreed with that.
I don't remember.
Reuben-
I don't remember. Look it up. We got 5 minutes left, so look it up and then let me know next week. Okay?
So who is the youngest brother of that family?
Benjamin is the
I
youngest.
thought Joseph was
No,
the
but-
youngest.
Benjamin is younger than Joseph, but Joseph is the youngest of the 10. Right? So Joseph is 11 and then Benjamin is 12. Okay? So verse 26. Then they loaded their donkeys with their grain and departed, and as one of them opened his sack to give the donkey fodder at the lodging place, he saw his money in the mouth of his sack. And he said to his brothers, my money has been put back, here it is in the mouth of my sack. At this their hearts failed them, and they turned trembling to one another, saying, what is this that God has done to us?
Do they think they're being set up?
They think they're being set up, and they think that God is doing it. Which is also a way that we feel sometimes. Okay? Verse 29. When they came to Jacob, their father in the land of Canaan, they told him all that had happened to them, saying, the man, the Lord of the land, spoke roughly to us and took us to be spies of the land. But we said to them, we are honest men, and we have never been spies. We are 12 brothers, sons of our father. One is no more, and the youngest is this day with our father in the land of Canaan. Then the man, the Lord of the land, said to us, by this I shall know that you are honest men. Leave one of your brothers with me, and take grain for the famine of your households, and go your way. Bring your youngest brother to me, then I shall know that you are not spies, but honest men. I will deliver your brother to you, and you shall trade in the land. So, everything that just happened, they just told Jacob. Okay? Last paragraph, verse 35. And they emptied their sacks, and behold, every man's bundle of money was in his sack. And when they and their father saw their bundles of money, they were afraid. And Jacob their father said to them, you have bereaved me of my children. Joseph is no more, and Simeon is no more, and now you would take Benjamin. All this has come against me. Then Reuben said to his father, kill my 2 sons, if I do not bring him back to you. Put him in my hands, and I will bring him back to you. But he said, my son shall not go down with you, for his brother is dead, and he is the only one left. If harm should happen to him on the journey that you are to make, would you bring down my gray hairs with sorrow to Sheol? So
He sounds like he's not even recognizing those first 10
He's not.
as his sons.
He's not. Because what is ultimately Jacob deciding?
He's not going to send the son.
He's not
Otherwise,
going-
he's not going to have any sons
So
left.
he is leaving Simeon in Egypt. He is letting go of his second eldest son. So when we talk about, this would be more like if Amanda were here. Amanda's not here because Rosa is graduating from preschool today. So she's at the preschool graduation. But, you know, when we talk about what grief does to us, right? Grief is one of those things that kind of, when it gets embedded into the way that you think, it's really hard to get up out of that again. And I think that's kind of where Jacob is. He's in that state of grief that he can't even see past the end of his nose and realize that he's actually losing one of his sons by not sending Benjamin down to Egypt. Because they don't know that sending Benjamin down to Egypt is a malicious thing. He just is trying to test them to see if what they're saying is true, because he knows that what they say isn't true. Right?
He's in such grief now because first he lost Joseph. In his mind, he's dead.
Mm-hmm.
So he's only got Benjamin, from his loins,
Mm-hmm.
and Rachel, that he's afraid if he goes down, I'm not gonna have any of my children left.
Yeah. Even though he has
10.
9
And
others. Right? And what about Reuben in this?
Telling him that, well, if I don't bring him back, I'll just take
Just kill my sons. This is how this works. Okay, you see this in a lot of TV shows, right? I did something wrong. In order to make up for it, you do something wrong to me.
Eye for an eye.
An eye for an eye. So like, this happens a lot in TV shows. I'm guessing you didn't really watch the show How I Met Your Mother. This happened a lot in that show where they would have what's called a slap bet. So one of them would slap someone across the face, and then they would get to slap him back. Right? Like it's so ridiculous, but that's how we think. This is how we treat our families, right? My sister did this to me, now I'm gonna do this to her. This is the way that we think. You did this sin, now that allows me to sin this way. It's how we think, and it's really wrong, but Christians do this all the time. And it's something that we need to recognize, pray about, and hopefully not do in the future.
When I read this, at study at home, I assumed that Reuben and his brothers were trusting. They found the money in their bag along with the food. That wasn't a negative thing.
That's gotta be good faith, right?
Right, and he really does believe that if he goes back, Simeon's coming home, and he knows that it will not be a bad outcome. I mean, all the sons won't be killed.
And his sons won't be killed.
Right.
Right? Yeah.
But why didn't they turn around when they first found the money? I mean, their brother they had to know that the Egyptians were testing them because the money was put in back in all of those sacks. As soon as they found that money, why didn't they go, uh-oh, we better bring this back?
To make
because
sure,
we
let's
got
set
the
it
grain
right.
And we need to pay for it.
But
After
Jane,
all, they're honest.
they're honest men,
Oh, yeah.
right?
Well, at that point, they
Honest
only
liars.
found the money.
It wasn't until they got home.
All right.
The one found it.
So,
The one found it.
we're at time, so thank you for your discussion today. Let's end with the Lord's Prayer, okay? Our
Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen.
Now that's a perfect prayer after what we just
Right,
had.
right, amen, yes. So,